Hi and welcome back to another video. Today I want to show you a game where I had 97.8 accuracy, which is high for someone like me, but I think originally there were like no inaccuracies, but I don't know, this like changes if you do the analysis again with a different depth or something, but let's just pretend this was this had no inaccuracies. The game started as a Caro-Kann, e4 by white, c6 by me, d4, d5, and now e5, the advanced variation, which is a variation where you're trying to get aggressive, you're trying to prevent knight f6 and trying to get white under a lot of pressure. And if you play, if black plays the main line like bishop f5, then white can immediately play h4 and also maybe g4 soon, just to really get aggressive and put black on a lot of pressure on the king side. So that's why I didn't do that. Instead I played c5, which is the only two moves, basically bishop f5 and c5. And this is why I played c5. They took, which is the sort of masterful or more accurate move, because you're actually trying to hold on to the extra pawn. And yeah, you can get black can get into trouble if they don't know how to defend. So knight c6, so e6 and knight c6 are both moves on this spot. Knight c6 is, in my opinion, more principled, because if you play e6, you can't develop the bishop here. So one of my goals in playing c4, c5 is instead of developing the bishop to f5, you want to develop it to g4 and pin the knight and maybe take it so the knight can't support white's pawn center here. Yeah. So what's black generally trying to do is we're trying to win this pawn, and we're trying to win this pawn after playing e6. So right now this pawn is directly attacked, so f4 is sort of the most principled move. Another move that I like even more is bishop b5, which the engine doesn't think is the best move. But bishop b5 just pins this knight and prevents any action, and there's also a lot of stuff that black can't really do in this line, which, yeah, I mean, okay, there's no way that this isn't an accuracy, but yeah, I like bishop b5. Good, but I played f4, which is also good. And now I played an interesting move. So the main line here goes e6, but also a not uncommon move is knight h6. So the reason is, if you have e6, you trap this bishop. This bishop can't really develop naturally. If you play bishop f5, that's just the wrong square. Like it's, you know, we didn't play bishop f5 originally because we wanted to precisely place it on g4. So what knight h6 does, it is prepares bishop g4, and the reason we usually don't play knight h6 is because this bishop can take us, right? But since white played f4, there's actually no danger of being taken here, so we can later on develop to f5. Good, okay. And I call this like the XJ variation as a joke, because I think most people, or no one really plays this except for me. So knight f3 is the response that we were hoping for. So the bishop pins. They play h3, which is not that great, because I sort of actually want this trade to happen. I'm not actually too sad about it, because I just don't, you know, this bishop will become somewhat worthless being the same color as the pawns. So this trade happens, and then e6 completes the development, or completes the development of the pawn chain. Here my opponent played bishop d3, so what I think would be a logical move is bishop e3, because that's, I think, the only move that holds on to this pawn. I mean, there's b4, but b4 we take it, right? Which is why I think this is a strong move, because it threatens to play b4. Okay, bishop e3 would have been my choice because it's actually protecting this pawn, which is good principles. Good. So how would this line continue? So we will play knight f5, which is just more development that we want. And also one thing about this f4 line, we sometimes have this check here with the queen. Not in this line, but yeah, that's just something to to keep in mind if you play against this f4 line. So knight f5, which is threatening to take this bishop. Let's say we drop it back. Then black simply has this check here. White defends this check, and this pawn is attacked twice by 2 pieces, so we can just take it. And it looks like b4 is plundering a fork, but we can just take this with check, and since this is check, it's not plundering a fork. Right. But bishop f2 wasn't actually necessary. Like bishop f2 is the best move according to the engine, but bishop f2 is not necessary because after we capture this, then the queen will also be able to protect this, since the queen can move diagonally. So maybe another approach here would be c3, which prepares b4. And in this case, we still take. And here we have an important move, d4. As you can see, it's the only one which in which black has the advantage. d4 cuts off division to this pawn, so black takes, and we take with the knight, which is also threatening a fork here. And but this pawn is also under fire, so the only real move is queen c3. And then black also has a move that's maybe not intuitive to find for someone who's not that high rated, which is queen d5. And this has the idea of infiltrating the king, because white is so focused on keeping the material and not actually developing and castling that it's actually becoming a real problem. Right. So this is actually double attack against the pawn and the king. So if they actually, for some reason still hold on to the pawn, then the queen just gets in here, and no matter what white does, we at least win this pawn. We maybe have, if they go to the d file, which is actually the top move, we can put the rook here. We can have sort of, as you can see by the engine, we already have a very good position. Okay, but they didn't do that. They played bishop d3, which is also fine, I think. I take the pawn. They play bishop e3, which obviously, you can't castle right now, so the idea is to prepare castling. I take it, takes. Here I develop the queen with check. The engine gives knight b4 as the best line, which I don't think at all is a good idea, because the line that it gives is bishop b5 check, right? And this is why you have to be careful about moving this knight, because you would think, okay, this is just black is just losing a move, you have to go back, but the engine actually wants you to play king f8 here, and after queen c5, which is forks this pieces, you play queen e7, and then either queen trade happens and an endgame where you're favorable, or just queen f2 apparently is the top move. But yeah, I don't think any human would play like this with king f8. I don't really think that's a good idea, and I'm also not very fond of queen trades. So queen a5 I think is actually more natural, or the best move in this position. Knight b4 is sort of looking to trade off their bishop against our knight, and they allow it. And here knight f5, which is the idea that I originally had with putting the knight on h6. Also hitting the queen with tempo. Queen b5 is sort of a fork. We hit this pawn and this pawn. I mean, there are in theory there are ways to defend this, but for example playing g4 and then putting the queen here, but this is all very awkward. right? So and if you are sort of this type of player who plays the advanced Caro, you're not looking for an awkward defense. You're looking for trying to move these pawns down here and attack the black king. All right, so we forked them, but they played g4, and I played knight e7, and then I played f5, which, this is what I was talking about. This looks scary, but it's actually not that scary. So here's an interesting line that I found that didn't happen, but that's interesting. So we could have actually directly taken the pawn. I didn't want to do this because this was sort of too destabilizing maybe, and I don't like it when they have sort of these ideas here. But okay, they take back. And the move that's suggested here is literally just taking this pawn and threatening the knight and this pawn more or less. And if black plays f6, after takes, black has an incredible move here, which is actually just completely ignoring this knight, that this knight is under attack, and just taking this pawn, for example. And after white takes the knight, then we have check here, and it's actually made in 2 because the king obviously has nowhere to go, so the queen has to block here, and then we take here, and then we move up here. Yeah, so f5 doesn't, if you know all your tactics well, then f5 is not a threat. So that's why I played queen takes d3, just cashing on the pawn and threatening stuff here, and maybe this knight. And yeah, when I played this move, queen takes d3, I already calculated all this. Like, I could see, okay, probably to play takes and takes and put the queen down here, which looks scary, but the king can just hide on d7. And this is exactly what happened in the game. So takes, check, king d7. And the king is actually perfectly safe. And the problem with this move is that it actually removes defense of the knight. So you're already not very... you already had one hanging thing, and now you have two hanging things. So white is almost losing already, but let's say we still want to protect the knight, and we want to protect the knight instead of moving it away. So what I meant to say was, what happened in the game was knight b3 happened, and this allows queen g3 check, which is obviously devastating. But let's say we wanted to prevent queen g3 check, right? So the idea is we go here in order to secure this square and secure the knight. So if we do this, then black can move either one of the rooks to attack the queen. And here this is a line which is probably not highly findable, let's say, by someone who's 1740. But you can play rook f3 here. Rook takes queen, and black is only up one pawn. So the engine gives this as -3. It's obviously very good for black, just because of the pawn structure, the king being better positioned, and the extra pawn. But I wouldn't say this is over. I think this could still be... I think the result is still not decided yet. Yeah, and probably I wouldn't have even found rook hf8, but instead I would have played probably something like queen takes h3, just saying, look, I'm up 2 pawns. I'm probably going to win this endgame, but this is a bit dubious because white has a rook f3. Black has to go for queen h4, and this queen is sort of becoming offside. So it's not really participating in the action. And this rook could just move could just move with a tempo, and it's actually going to move again, and that helps it. That helps it get to an even better square, which is b3. And from here it's threatening all those sorts of things. This rook might come in, so rook b3 is actually looking pretty strong to me. So yeah, the engine here gives b5 as the best move, which is obviously, I don't think anyone below 2000 would play this, because it's just giving away a pawn for free. But I think the idea is to sort of prevent this check here from happening. But yeah, b5 just looks insane, because they could just take it, which is actually not the best move, I think. But let's not go into this. But that's sort of a way how queen takes h3 might lead to might be suboptimal. So, but they did play knight b3, which is a huge blunder. I don't understand how long did it take. Okay, I mean they played it in 1 second, so maybe they straight up missed this. But yeah, I think after queen g3 check, it's basically black has basically won the game. Like, there's nothing white can do, because queen g3 check gets played, king h1, we take 1 pawn, we can also take the other pawn for free, and then it doesn't even matter what black does. But I activated my a rook on the c file with the idea of coming here and having this nasty check. Probably the best would be to put up resistance to that, but they didn't do that or didn't see it. So I played check here. They had to go back. Queen f2, obviously giving up the queen, which is immediately losing, but maybe they had still hopes. So check here, and yeah, it's just forced mate after the queen goes to h2. Right, so this is my 98% or 97.8% accuracy game. I hope you enjoyed it. I actually have a 100% accuracy game, which was only 10 moves, but 10 moves of theory basically that I knew. But this was sort of, I think this might be the highest accuracy game that I have that plays until checkmate. Well, I have some 8-move checkmates, but let's not talk about that. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I think this might have been more instructive for white players than black players, because black didn't make any mistakes really. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and see you next time.